Start early. Here we go. Sucio Talk. No theme music today. Okay. Here we are. Once again. Shout out to all my people out there. Sucio Talk live every Monday. Call in 510-463-1145. It's February 27th, 2023 in the year of our Lord and Savior. We got Nathan Kryler in the house, Chef Melody in the house, Taquero Eddie, what up? I ate a delicious meal at Piglet in San Francisco. What up, Chef Andres? I ate at Piglet in San Francisco a couple days ago. Bomb-ass meal in the Mission in San Francisco. They got Bruce Lee Kung Fu playing on the TVs and the walls. And Taquero Eddie was the one who let me know. You can follow Taquero Eddie on Instagram. I believe Taquero Eddie. But El Chino Grande, who I'm just going to start referring to you guys by fucking Instagram name because, well, it's a lot fucking cooler. You know what I mean? El Chino Grande sent me some delicious snacks while I was eating. Definitely hooked it up. Super happy about the space. His girl was running the front of the house. Amazing person. Nathan Kryler, no information yet on the new gig, man. Still negotiating. Still seeing what's up. It's not 100% set in stone. The only thing for me that was good was the tasting. So they could say no. It's fine. You know what I mean? I'll find a home somewhere here on Earth. Maybe I'll go cook on Mars. The Elon Musk needs chefs up in Mars. I'll go cook over there. Check it out, suciotalk.com. You can check it out for merch. Get yourself una camisa, unos pantalones, lo que sea. Whatever you want. Go check it out. Suciotalk.com. You can check out the podcast on YouTube. If anybody calls me, you can only hear it on YouTube. You're not going to be able to hear it on Instagram. So I'm sorry about that. We'll figure it out. But for now, that's what we're doing. So go over to YouTube if you want to hear any phone calls. Fortunately for you guys, nobody fucking calls me. So it's all good. 510-463-1145. Every Monday here on Sucio Talk, 10 p.m., bringing a little bit of consistency to the programming here. Being available to you guys every Monday at 10 p.m. 10 p.m. So here we go. 3 minutes into the live broadcast. This is for you guys. It's for the cooks, the chefs, the front of the house people, back of the house people. What's going on out there? Those chefs that aren't afraid to put their arm into the grease trap. Shout out to you. Those chefs who are not above ripping roadkill off of their parking lot. Shout out to you. Shout out to those people out there taking a little bit of extra time to clean the Vita Prep. We all need you. We need you to clean the Vita Prep a little bit better. Shout out to all those Vita Preps that are barely hanging on, but they get it done. Somehow, some way, they get it done. Chef Dave Witt joining us. I waved to you on Instagram. It's a little gay, right? It's like a hug. It's okay if I say gay. Chef Jeff Davis. Chef Jeff Davis was on the podcast episode 114. He's about to open his spot in Burdell in Oakland on Telegraph Avenue out there in the Temescal region of things, I believe. So shout out to him for getting his his shit together and getting some money put together to fund his restaurant. Huge loans, huge money, big money. You know, he's betting on himself right now. So go out there, support him if you can, you know. Let him know what you're thinking about. Go into the restaurant, have some food. He's also doing private events in the home, so you can book Jeff Davis of Burdell to cook you dinner in home. It's not bad. Opening in late spring. Let's revisit that because you know shit sometimes takes longer than it's supposed to. But here we are anyway. So excited for him. Making big moves. Chef Jeff Davis. And then he talked some interesting things. He talked about critics. He talked about the fact that, you know, like a Michael Bauer or these guys who write sort of these pieces that are seen in the chef community as hate speech, or not hate speech, but you know, it's them just shitting on your restaurant, ripping it apart, writing a really good article along with that, using, you know, great analogies and things like that to let people know just how shitty your restaurant is. Okay? So we were talking about this, and I was telling them that I believe there should be a villain. We all need villains. We need a fucking critic out here talking shit, so we can shut them the fuck up. You know what I mean? I feel like that, even though we hate to admit it, the haters motivates us. So for me, I don't mind having a harsh food critic who's out here writing articles trying to destroy my name. You know, and then the argument, of course, that Jeff had was, you know, this alienates some of the people in the restaurant that are in the lower rung of the totem pole, whether that's porters or the lower, you know, the bus boys, whatever. Basically saying that because this article's negative, it's taking away from the customer base, right? The amount of people coming into the place. So it's affecting the money in the pockets. Therefore, the people that are on the lower rung are getting cut. They're not getting the hours they need, right? And then I asked him, do you think that it is the reader or do you think that it's the writer's fault? Obviously, the writer has something to do with it because he wrote the article. But I do believe that the reader, you know, and the simplest way I could say this is if I have a restaurant and based off of one article, you've never seen the restaurant, you've never been inside, you don't know anything, and you're basing your opinion on going to this restaurant based on one article, frankly, I don't want you at my fucking restaurant. All right? If you read one publication, one thing, and automatically believe that one thing, you don't do enough research to me, just in life, for us to get along or get together. You know, that's like you've read movies that you love have shitty reviews, but you watched it anyway, right? So we need to bring that shit back. Remember renting movies at Blockbuster? You had no choice but to watch it, even if it was shitty. All right? And I feel like now we got the Netflix syndrome. You throw on Netflix, and you spend more time scrolling around and looking at movies than you do actually watching anything. And that's what they want you to do, baby. They just want you to be in a hamster wheel of entertainment. And we're feeding right into it, guys. You know? So, feeding right into the web of deceit in the matrix that the government has us rolling in. Even this. I'm like, oh, I'm free. I do a podcast. I'm not free. I'm over here talking to you guys on a phone made with slave labor. You know? You have to fight fire with fire, man. Money is evil, but you need money to fix shit. So, there's that. But I do think we need some villain critics out here talking shit to these chefs, because if you don't have anybody to take you down a notch, who's gonna call you out? And then when they do call you out, you're not gonna listen. As a chef, as a leader, you need to allow the people around you to be able to call you out on stuff in a constructive manner, to be able to move the ball down the field, right? Piers Brosnan, all right? Your peers, the people next to you that you respect and love. All your Piers Brosnans out there. But I will say some peers be coming off real disrespectful. You know what I mean? And that's when you get slapped. Just know that in this world, there is a consequence where you get punched in the face. There's always that possibility. I think people forget about that sometimes, and I think the internet brings that about, because you can talk shit online and nobody actually confronts you about it. Until today, all my chefs out there that are on Instagram Live, you can call in to the show, be featured on the podcast, say shout out to your mom, whatever you want to do. Say, hey, I was on this podcast, and then you show her this little part of it. 510-463-1145. Talk shit, whatever you want to do. Hit me up. We're talking villain critics, as discussed on Sucio Talk with Jeff Davis. Jeff also sent me a text to remove a part of the podcast where he called Soleil Ho a she, quickly corrected to a they, right? To they. Yeah, there we go. Andres Flores for 2023 Chronicle Food Critic. I like that. A chef talking shit to chefs, as it should be. It's like, what were you thinking about that sauce, bro? It just wasn't good. It missed the mark. Where's that? You know, as chefs, I feel like we got a little bit too sensitive. Motherfuckers can't talk shit about our food because that's our livelihood. This is my restaurant. It's like, go fuck yourself. All right? The greatest chefs made it in a world where people were talking shit about you at every turn. All right? Marco Pierre White, all these dudes that are growing up back in the day, all these guys just want to do is take them down, these villain critics. And I'm sorry, man, if you subscribe to the villain critic, if that's your guy, if you're going to read that one article and be like, well, I'm not going to go here because fucking Ryan Seacrest, let's just pretend he's the writer, doesn't like this. Fuck that. All right? Make your own goddamn opinions. You can read the shit. We can read shit, but then you got to go out, do the research, make sure it's true or not, right, before you hop on it and say, I believe this. Okay? But anyway, before that, I was saying, Jeff, okay, so he texts me, he says, hey, by the way, the digits are, here we go with the digits. I forget this number because it's not my fucking number. 510 plus 1 if you're out of the U.S. 510. I'll finish that thought after I tell you this fucking phone number real quick. 510-463-1145. 510-463-1145. If you call the number when it's not 10 p.m. on a Monday, you can call and leave a message, and I'll play your message on the show and then talk about it. All right, whatever the fuck you want to say, even if it's a shout out to your mom, whatever, even if you want to come up on here and be like, this restaurant sucked, I don't give a shit. Go ahead. We'll play it. We'll talk about it. It's all good. So you call that number there. But anyway, we called a person that is regarded a they, a she, right? Quickly recovered. Right? My man said, hey, I'm sorry. No, you refer to this person this way. And then later on, he was like, hey, I think we should, remove that part of it because, I do obviously respect them, and I want to make sure that we address them accordingly. So, and I said, you know what? That's a good thing to leave in there for us cavemen out there. Us that aren't educated enough to hang in this new world of gendering someone and whatever it is. So the number is 510-463-1145. 463-1145. 510 area code. 463-1145. And again, if you're calling in, you're not going to hear it on Instagram. You're going to have to go to YouTube if you want to hear that. And, all good. So we got a call here. Hold on, from a number. Slug, incoming call.
Call from
Slug.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Hola, Sucio Talk. Andres.
I just wanted to leave a message that Lazy Bear was shit.
Oh, my
That's
goodness.
It. Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
I'll see ya. My goodness. Someone just left a message that said, Lazy Bear is
Call
shit.
from
Pete Evans.
Oh, my goodness. All right. We got
To
Pete
accept,
Evans
press
calling
1.
here.
To send a
Yo,
What's up, dude?
Peter Evans, what's up?
Not much, man.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. I'm chilling. I'm fucking out here in Palm Springs right now doing a personal chef gig. Let me just say the number again for these people out here because, I'm new to this. So I'm trying to get this shit correct and I can't. 510-463-1145. 1145. So Pete, how the fuck are you? By the way, everybody, I know Pete from East Hall in culinary school. Met him in 2007. 2007, bro, when I met you.
Yeah.
Remember?
It's been a long time.
Remember when you threw a milk crate at Wilkie?
Yeah, I do.
That shit is
I
out
do.
here, dog. All right? Only on Sucio Talk. You know what I mean? Yo, so somebody just called before you. Somebody just called before you. I don't have their number. I don't know who they are. I thought it was I didn't have a area code for them or anything. And they called me.
It was probably me. I called twice.
No. It wasn't you. It was somebody else. It was somebody from California. So they go,
Okay.
I got to make a T-shirt with the number on it. Somebody goes, Lazy Bear sucks. That's what they just said to me. And that's a restaurant that's in San Francisco that has a Michelin star, or maybe 2. But
Okay.
there's a lot of people that are coming out of there. What do you think about, you're a chef yourself. What do you think about being a critic of a restaurant?
Well,
So
I was listening to everything you were saying there, and it got me thinking about this because I'm a movie guy, and I wanted to know if you've seen the menu yet.
I have seen the menu. I
If
have,
you've-
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And have you talked about that on here? Or am I just missed?
No,
did I just miss
I
that?
have, but hey, it's all good. Not with somebody. I've just talked to myself mainly. So yeah, go
How
ahead.
did you like? What was your general feeling about it? Did you like it? Did you think it was pompous or?
I didn't think it was pompous. I thought that they did a good job, and I thought that it was more than just like a culinary movie. Like I didn't really look at it as like, oh, this is like gonna define, cuisine. Like
Right.
I thought it was funny as fuck, but
Yes. I think some people that maybe have never worked in the industry might have gone totally over their head, but I'm not sure.
right.
The whole like dark comedy of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
I
I
liked
actually
it.
went into it. Yeah, I went into it thinking this is like the most dangerous game situation. Like these people are being brought to the island, they're going to be hunted. That's what I thought based on the previews. And I'm actually pleasantly surprised because that could be, they've done that before.
Right.
And so I just thought, thinking about the, destination restaurant aspect of it and how that whole thing was orchestrated towards each individual group, and how you had the critic and her magazine editor, and then you had like the what was it, the Finance Bros.
You're right.
And then you had the actor who was there just because he's an actor and he can afford it. And then you had the rich couple who flew in on their helicopter, eat there a million times a year. And then you had the guy who's like the masturbatory food critic.
Yeah.
Who ends up being like the most annoying of everybody. But no, I just I thought, it was just funny how, because you're talking about the villain, and that woman ends up being the villain who kind of started to orchestrate this whole. I don't want to spoil the movie if anybody's interested in seeing it.
No, man. Look, man. At this point, dude, if you haven't watched the menu, like, go fuck yourself. I'm sorry. You like, we can spoil the shit out of it at this point.
Yeah.
Like, there's a statute of limitations for that shit. Sure.
Yeah.
I will say the worst spoilers nowadays are wrestling events or sporting events because you just go online, and if you follow the team, they're gonna be like, "Oh, we won," and you're like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
So
if it's like my sports team,
right?
I'm and I can't watch it live, and I know like I'm at work and people are watching it and coming in or whatever.
Yeah,
I'll keep up with it on my phone.
Right.
But on the topic of wrestling, because I am also a wrestling fan, and that shit, it's Saturday night now.
Right.
Is when these events. It used to always be Sunday night.
Right.
And Sunday nights usually I'm off, but Saturday night they're doing these things now. People are texting me like, "Yo, did you see the fucking Sami Zayn Roman Reigns match?" I'm like, "No, man.
Yeah.
I'm fucking working."
Yeah.
They're just like,
what do you think about that Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn?
I think it's a great storyline. At first I was like, where are they going with this?
Right.
But I think things are on the up and up since Vince is gone.
Right, they definitely are. You can see almost like a different energy. In there.
And I also think that it's in general the world of wrestling is better with competition. I like what's going on in AEW. I don't watch it I don't get to watch everything. I DVR these things and I'll watch them when I can.
Right? Yeah, it's a lot, man. It's a lot to keep up on these days.
But I think during the pandemic and during lockdown, I thought I was like loving AEW because they at least had the live audience feel, even though it was like limited.
Right.
Because they were in Florida, and well, I guess they were both in Florida, but they're doing the WWE was from their training center,
right.
And the whole like TV thing with all the people, it seemed like it was too much for me. Like all the people logged in and you just see their faces. I wasn't a fan of that. Some people liked it. That's fine. But yeah, you have one of the dopest pictures ever because I remember you posting it with John Cena with you on his back.
Oh yeah, dude. He came to eat at the restaurant, and I had gone to WrestleMania the day before. So
wow.
I went to WrestleMania at the new 49ers Stadium in Santa Clara, which was like the first event they'd ever done there. They hadn't even played the game in there yet. And it was a dope thing, although I was pissed because I really wanted to see Undertaker. Like, I just wanted to see Undertaker my whole life. Like, I'd never been to a live before. And because it was in a Sky Dome, it wasn't dark enough for them, like, turn all the lights off. So I was kind of like, this is fucking lackluster. Like, he's coming out, and it's literally, like, daytime still. You know what I mean?
What match was that? Was that when he lost?
No, that wasn't when he lost. It was, like, the year after he lost. Because I think he lost in, 2018?
17, maybe.
17? Yeah. I think I went in, actually, it was, like, the year after he lost, I believe.
Okay,
because he was done with Brock. I forget who he wrestled that
was it Roman
that year. I want to say no, because that year Brock Lesnar and Roman went at it, and then what's his name? Fucking Seth Rollins cashed in his Money in the Bank, and he's
shit.
He won the title that year, and I hadn't seen a lot of this shit, because I just wasn't watching. I was fucking working all the time. Yeah. So when I watched it, I'm like, I knew who Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar was, but then this guy comes out of nowhere and wins the title. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, really, this guy? And so, I just think now that, like, when you look at who is a champion, like for me, I think Braun Strowman should be the champion. I
Yeah.
mean, it makes the
I can't
most
believe
sense.
they ever fired him.
I mean, yeah, I get it. He's kind of lame. Like he can't like put together a great promo, right? But like,
Yeah.
get him a mouthpiece. You did it with the Giant Omos. You might as well do it with
Yeah.
him. And
yeah, I think, I agree with that.
but you know who's your favorite right now? Who are you watching? Who are you rooting for?
Oh man, I like Braun Strowman. You know, AJ Styles. I mean, I want Sami Zayn. I think the one thing that I think they messed up with the whole thing is that the Sami Zayn thing should have gone to WrestleMania.
Oh, 100.
Because now it's Cody Rhodes, Roman, and I just feel like
right. They kind of had to stop it for Cody Rhodes, Roman.
Either that, or they're gonna turn it in like a week before, the way that WWE does. They're gonna turn into a triple threat or something. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I hope Sami interferes in that match and causes Roman Reigns to lose. And then, but I don't know, man, because they're going on this like he's gonna break the record for longest champion. Like I really think they're trying to like do that for a long time.
Yeah.
But you know, what are you gonna do? Fucking crazy.
Yeah, I've had a hard time keeping up with like the whole breadth of WWE, but I like the stuff with. Surprisingly enough, I like what they're doing with Dominic. And
right, isn't it crazy?
And the faction that he's in.
Isn't it crazy to be able to like watch that history?
Like, I remember the
custody of Dominic match.
The custody
Everyone
match.
Remembers that, dude. This is fucking crazy as fuck, dude.
So fucked up, but hilarious. And you know, it's one of the you know, the stalwarts of wrestling history that ever happened.
Yeah.
So that and bra and panty matches and, you know, all that shit that they used to get away with.
Exactly. They can't do that shit no more.
Well, they could if they decided not to be PG, but
very true. What do you think would happen if Vince sells? What do you think happens to WWE?
Oh man, I don't want him to sell to the Saudis. I just like for the country, that's not a good thing, you know.
Oh, he might sell it to the Saudi Arabians.
Oh yeah, it's been rumored for a while.
What the fuck, bro?
Yeah, and then it got like fake leaked that it happened, and then everyone's like, no, it didn't happen. But no, I mean, see, this to me as a fan is, and this is like, what Triple H should do,
right?
If Vince, I know Vince is like gone, quote unquote, but he hasn't relinquished. You know, like he's still there. You know, he's still looming. And to me, the greatest thing, and it's what WCW and WWE couldn't get away with back in the day because of just like the headbutting. But imagine if like it could be the second biggest wrestling event of the year aside from WrestleMania. Imagine if like the three biggest promotions, you get AEW, New Japan, and WWE to do a joint pay-per-view.
Right.
And you get your biggest star against their biggest star, and there's like no titles, just like dope ass wrestling. And it'll just never happen. But as a fan, you're like, how can somebody not make this happen?
Right.
And
do you think that the demographic is changing and that's why we're like, what's going on? Like, do you think
I think the demographic has changed. I think that your average wrestling fan is between like 16 and our age instead of like when I started watching wrestling and the demographic was like 5 to like 16.
Right. I mean, the Attitude Era brought that around, and then they lost a lot of people. They lost me in 2002, 2003.
Yeah, I mean, I've my whole life I've popped in and popped out. You know, when I was a little kid, I was just like Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan kid, and then I lost it for a little bit, and I came right back in at the perfect time for the Attitude Era, and then probably similar in timeline in what you were about to say, like right around like the launch of whatever the next era they called it. It was like Ruthless Aggression. It was like Stone Cold and The Rock. The Rock started doing movies. He wasn't around a bunch. Right. And that's kind of like when I popped out. But like I came back in like the early 2010s maybe, and just like out of nostalgia, and you know, I don't watch it like religiously, but you know, I catch the big pay-per-views, and I try and keep up. And
Yeah, it's still entertaining, you know, and that's the thing too. I keep up because I know that one day it'll just be there, you know, and then I'd be able to just
Absolutely.
pick it up and just get with it again. Because that's something that I want to like show my kids and shit, and like my little nieces, and just be like, hey, check this shit out. You don't have to like it. No one does.
Yeah.
Right. But everyone does at the same time. I'm like, where are these fans? I'm like, how do they fill these fucking buildings? And I literally don't know one person that likes wrestling other than you. You know?
So it's funny because so I think part of the thing about when I was talking about the demographic is like, especially for like, I think WWE still spans from a very young age of kids that believe it's real and not scripted,
right,
to people our age and older. Whereas I feel like AEW, their niche is people our age that know it's scripted but love it because like AEW is a little bit more their whole things they're kind of like more like WCW was,
right.
where it's like a little like the trick people, you know, there aren't band moves, like there's band moves in WWE because people get hurt, and they just do like a little bit more wild shit in AEW.
Right.
And,
so it's like ECW,
and
you'd say.
Yeah, it's not that, it's in between.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I think I enjoy watching wrestling as an adult, knowing that it's scripted, because like you're kind of like looking at like, you're like, because I'm watching it respecting them as athletes and like what they're doing to their bodies, but you're also like the guys behind the scenes, like and everyone that's working on the storyline, like that's also, you know, a whole thing, a whole part of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like watching a show.
It's like you know, it's the best. It's one of the best reality TV you can imagine. It's better than the fucking Bachelor. It's better than, you know, it's just as scripted. You can't tell me the Bachelor's not scripted.
Yeah, the Bachelor's definitely scripted.
Except guys get to, you know, hit each other with foreign objects.
Bro, I met a guy he was a recruiter for personal chefs, and he was on The Bachelorette. And he was saying that, like, it ruined his life for, like, 5 years. Because
I can imagine.
So he was just, like, eating, you know, food somewhere at some mall, and some girl walks up to him and says, hey, you're, like, attractive. You could be part of the show. And he's like, all right, cool. So he does it. He goes in through the process, gets on the show. And then he basically was like, you know, they use CIA-style tactics to, like, fuck with you and get you to be super emotional, like, break down, basically. They, like, all the lights are on in the house all the time. They, like, don't let you get any sleep. And then he's like, they took everything I had said over the course of the whole show and made 1 minute and just destroyed me as a person.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where he was like, I have trust issues. I can't, like, I don't do this very well, and it was crazy. And
I listened to Jim Jeffries' podcast, Australian comedian, and they had his whole podcast thing is like they bring on somebody who's like a professional in some field, and that he doesn't know, and they ask him questions about it, and so it's like he's a comedian, so he's being funny, but then it's also informative. So I like that. But they brought on a guy who was on The Bachelor, and and he was I think he was the Bachelor, and they kind of like, because Jim talks about how he's a fan of the show, it's like his guilty pleasure, and the guy kind of like walks him through all the steps. He's like because the whole thing is filmed in like, I don't know, 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
He's like it's hard enough to remember everyone's name, you know, when you're going from like, it starts off with like 25 women to like, you know, then in 2.5 weeks you have to decide, oh yeah, I'm gonna propose to this person. It's ridiculous.
It really is.
But people eat that shit up. It's not for me, but he actually has a new stand-up on Netflix, if anyone's into stand-up comedy, and he does a bit on it, but it's definitely off color. I'm not going to repeat it on here because I probably won't get it right, and I'll sound.
Oh, no, I got you. Yeah, Jim Jeffries has a good way of putting shit
he has
like
a funny thing about, he's basically, his whole thing is like how you could never do you could never have a gay bachelor.
Right.
And he goes into why, but it's just funny because it's comedy, so it's all subjective. He's not being serious.
I mean, I'm glad we have stand-up comedy, sort of the last beacon of just like say whatever you want kind of thing.
Yeah,
as you should be able
absolutely.
to.
And I'm on I'm not on the side of anyone going out there, and I'm totally anti hate speech and all that stuff. But like Chappelle, people trying to like cancel Chappelle, it's like it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
He's talking about his experience versus their experience. Like it's different, and he's just talking. That's his thing. He just goes out there and talks.
Yeah. It's fucking nuts, man. All the cancellation shit that happens with everybody. But I'm glad that like, some people are can evade the storm and get over it, get through it. Obviously, all those who did wrong should burn in hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's people that get roped into shit that are not doing anything, and it's just like, because they said a few choice things that people don't like, then they become the enemy, and then they bury you, cancel you.
Yeah.
So, it's terrible, man. How's the weather out there? You guys wintry still?
It just snowed, but I think it turned into rain, so like the snow's probably almost already gone.
Right.
But it's it hasn't been like super winter this winter. It's only snowed like twice.
Right.
And there's only been like one like super cold week where it's like in the teens all week and maybe in single digits at night.
Mm-hmm.
But on average, it's been really weird. It's been like yesterday was like 60 during the day, and then it goes down to like 32 at night. So it's kind of like a wild, fucking global warming.
Global warming.
Whatever. I mean, I don't fucking know. It's
Al
gotta be
Gore, baby. It's all him.
I mean, you grew up on the East Coast. I remember as a kid, we had winter. Like you were bundled up when you left the house, and like it snowed often.
Right.
And I mean, the last 10 years, like I mean, I end up going to the grocery store in shorts because like 50 degrees to me is warm, especially during the winter. In California, I'm sure 50 degrees people are like bundled up, right? But
I would say, man, coming from Connecticut, a 50 degrees here is like 30 in Connecticut.
Right.
It's like a weirder breeze.
Yeah.
It like gets in. It gets in your bones. You're like, what is it? Why am I cold? And it's like, it'll be 55, and it'll be freezing in San Francisco, and you're like, why does it feel like this?
Yeah, like 3 years ago, I went to Vegas, and it was February, and it was like 60 degrees, but I was coming from like 20 degrees weather.
Yeah.
And so I'm outside in a short sleeve shirt and shorts, and I'm walking past like a road crew who have like face masks on, like ski masks, and like full winter gear, and they're looking at me like I'm a psychopath. I'm like, it's warm, man.
Some people just can't do it, bro. I want to ask you this. So many years now that you've been in the industry, you've been chefing. What do you think about culinary school after it all said and done?
Man, I enjoyed every minute of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wish that there was a better path for, not better, but just like a more, like, okay, so I know I've heard you on here talking about tech school. You're a tech school kid. I was a tech school kid as well. And I enjoyed everything out of tech school. Tech school, I was able to skip. You probably too. Were you able to like skip a few classes?
Yeah.
Freshman year.
Yep.
Like I didn't have to take Serve Safe. I didn't have to take like the baking class. I think the first year.
Okay.
Because whatever the curriculum was, like they were certified that it, like I didn't have to pay for that course.
Oh, dope.
But I mean, one of the main reasons, like my parents were like, and they were like this with, I mean, we're very supportive. I have two brothers. One of them went to fine art school, which is just like, painting and drawing. And so they're like, look, we don't care what you guys do, but you have to do, you got to go to school. So like they wouldn't have been supportive of me just like necessarily going right into the industry. So like culinary school was the next step. And I mean, I wouldn't trade the experience we had there for anything,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't it's not cohesive to for I think for most people. I mean, I remember there was a big drop off of people between freshman and sophomore year.
Yeah.
You probably remember that too. It was
Yep.
like the people who went because like they liked to cook versus the people who were like, I have to cook. Like this is what like, because I think for a lot of people, like the whole thing with like the 7-hour lab, right? It's the whole idea is like it's a shift.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, even though some of it's a lecture and everything,
Mm-hmm.
but being in one place doing one thing for that amount of time, for me was nothing. But I think for a lot of people were like this, like it didn't work for them.
Yeah.
And even though that's like barely a shift, 7 hours, but
do you guys work? Do you work doubles a lot?
Yeah. So I'm in the catering industry, and like we kind of build up our weeks. So like I'll give you like the busiest time of year is June and September, wedding seasons, right?
Okay.
So like we'll come in on a Tuesday. Like Monday is usually like clean up, like throw shit out, whatever, blah blah blah. Tuesday is come in, make prep lists for the week. It's mainly just like me and the other chef, and we're just like making our prep list, making our plan for the week. On that day, we might like start making like vinaigrettes and aiolis, something that's going to be fine for Saturday.
Right.
And then it's just like, and then we build up. But like Wednesday, we'll do, some raw veg prep or some meat fabrication, and it's all just so we're going from like Monday, which is a cleanup day, which is like 4 hours,
Mm-hmm.
and then the next day, which might be like 5 hours, and then all build up to like then Friday, which is like we got to get everything done, everything wrapped up, everything totally like pristine, wrapped, labeled, but divided going to each party. Like that's gonna be probably like a 10-hour day, and then the day of the wedding can be, depending on how far it is and how long it is like anything. I mean, I've done like a 19-hour day because we had to drive down to like fucking Maryland.
Right.
So and then sometimes there's stuff during the week too. So yes, sometimes there's, it all depends on how busy it is. There's been 90-hour weeks.
How do you deal with managing your hourly employees while like doing that 19-hour shift? Like, are you having people come in and working all of that, or is it split up between shifts?
A lot of we rely on part-time people and people that have other jobs that just want extra work. So like
right.
in our core group, there's only like 5 full-time employees,
Mm-hmm.
and so like we just prep, like we're the ones working the longest of that day, and we're bringing in people to, a lot of it is just it's like, okay, we're driving the truck and we're bringing it to here and we're setting up, like there's a lot of it. It's like if we're going to an event and it's a tent like in someone's like yard,
Mm-hmm.
then we're like, we got to move the equipment, we got to set up the tables, but then we bring people in. We're like, okay, so we have them to assemble, the food and everything, and we're just like dealing with logistics. But yeah, I mean, we end up relying a lot on people that help us out and our part-time people, and
right.
Sometimes we every once in a while we have to call in the temp agency out of New York, and those are hit and miss. Like we had one, like we've had people show up fucking wasted, and and because when we're really spread thin and we have a lot of events, we use the temp companies for front of house staff a lot.
Right.
And but every once in a while when we're like, oh, we need some cooks too, we'll ask them and they'll provide some. And so like the one time we were like, yo, this dude is fucking wasted. Like he just dumped Arbor Blanc into the mashed potatoes. And like, now I have to like and
how do you come back from that, bro?
I know, and it's just like and so and we were like, we didn't want to like get the dude in like legal trouble, but we're like telling the dude who like runs the staff, and he's like, I'm so sorry, I'll take care of it. And he ends up dropping the dude off at the local drunk tank.
Really?
Which is, yeah. And we're just like, yo, I was like, that's not what we were looking for. He's like, no, that dude's a piece of shit. He's done this before. I'm like, well, why did you bring him here?
I
but anyway.
you want to believe in people. You really do.
Yeah, I generally, I generally try and trust people, and when people come in and they say that they have experience, because everyone's experience is different, and I don't think being trained one way isn't wrong than another. But
Right.
and that's why I always say to people when I'm like literally showing them how I want chives cut, because I'm not trying to be a dick. This is how my owner, the guy I work for, expects them to be cut, and if you don't cut them like this, then you need to cut them like this.
Right.
Like when you normally cut chives. Like it's the simplest thing.
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but if this is how we do this simple task, because
Right.
somebody might do it differently somewhere else. And I'm like, and if I were to go into another place, I would expect nothing else. I would expect to be told exactly how they do it. I don't want to assume that the way I was taught was the way they do it there, because everything's different.
Right. Unless they ask
And
you
that's
to
why
say,
that's
hey.
why I hate people who are like holier than thou. Like, oh, I've done this and that. I'm like, okay, but this is here. You know?
Right, yeah. That's, personal chefing helped me with that. It's like humbling yourself and knowing that, like, sometimes it's okay to buy the frozen fries for the fucking
Yeah.
burger. Like, you don't have to kill yourself making everything. There's
Absolutely.
there's fucking things out there that you can use that don't make you any worse of a chef. It's like, what would grandma do kind of situation. But I will say that French cuisine has a lot of rules, and those rules make cooking not fun.
Yeah.
And that's why I think a lot of us go to Asian cuisine, go to Japanese cuisine, whatever it is, because there's no rule. There's rules, but it's like they can be bent, and you can do whatever you want, really. And with French cuisine, it's like you need to do it this way, and this is why we do it this way. And I get it, but sometimes, like with Indian cuisine, for example, some of those recipes is just like burn the fuck out of those spices, like roast them in the oil. And you go to any French, recipe, and it's like toast them very minimally in a dry pan over heat, and then let them cool, and then put them in whatever the fuck you're gonna put them in.
Yeah.
So
I try and approach most things especially if I'm just like, I'm told to make something without a guideline or a recipe, and there's like just some sort of spiced tomato jam. I'm like, okay, and I'm just gonna like think in my head, what would make this good? And I just like trust myself, and I say, and then if it doesn't turn out, I'll make it again. But I generally try and go by. At this point, it hasn't always been this way, because we're obviously more seasoned now. But like, I trust myself, and if I want to try something different, I'm gonna say I'm gonna try something different, and because I think it will work. And then when it works, it feels good. And if it doesn't work, you say, oh well, that didn't work, and now I remember that. Because speaking of culinary school, because that's how we blasted off on this conversation, is that you asked me about how I feel about culinary school now. So we had a kid come through this past summer who had just finished his first year at CIA, and I was going through when she'd showing him just like I was just saying. I said, look, I know how your chefs are expecting you to do things in school, and you should always remember that, because that's what they're going to want, and that's how they're going to grade you.
Right.
So I'm going to show you 2 other ways to do that same thing that are easier, smarter, just for when you go out and you're working for somebody and they say, oh, he did that real quick, that's going to look better than, oh, he did that, in some half-ass way that they did back in 1870 Escoffier, where it doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
So
you think that the curriculum has to change?
I think the curriculum has to change. I think it has to be more open-minded.
Well, sorry to interrupt. When we were coming up, the French Laundry book was like the pinnacle of what we were looking at.
Yeah.
That's not the food that we were cooking in class.
No,
it's like
not until like the later years.
Right.
We got kind of close in like senior year.
Kind of close, but there wasn't really anybody, saying to us, hey, this is an option that you guys can take. You guys can go work
Right.
in the Michelin realm. You don't have to, work in a hospital or whatever. I felt like they were just training institutional chefs, which I used to look down on that, but we got this guy, Dan Giusti, who used to be the chef of Noma, who has a thing called Brigade. And it's basically him putting, highly trained chefs in school cafeteria situations. And that makes sense because it's like, at the end of the day, these kids are our fucking future. Like, I want to be well taken care of when I'm fucking old. Like, these guys got to eat well, And so he's changing the tides of that. But then he's finding out that, like, we are, like, trained to, like, Michelin or not. You know what I mean? And it's like, if we're not like, especially over here in California, if you're not like doing something like that, then it's not worth it. And I think that that's kind of bullshit. I think it's all necessary. Like, we need the wedding catering, and we need the Michelin star restaurant, and we need the school food to be good. And then we need the fucking hospital food to be good too.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Our catering goes from like the wedding. With a catering company, it's the big events to bring the money in.
Yeah, of course.
But I hate working those events because it's just, and we really do better than your average wedding. Because I attend weddings, and I'm like, oh, this food's cold. Like, we set everything up so that everything is like blazing hot. We got people burning their hands with shit going out the door.
Right.
But my favorite events to do are like when I do like a 15-person dinner party, because that's just like personal chefing, right?
Right. Yeah.
And,
exactly.
So that's what I love, because I go out and like I announce the course, and people like eat that shit up, Even though I'm just serving fucking like short rib, But people, and you drop like the, you're like, oh, that's the, who's the. Because it just went viral on TikTok recently. I've been seeing they talk about the French potatoes that are like 50% butter.
Oh, the Palms Robuchon?
Yeah, Robuchon.
Yeah.
So like, you just say, you walk out and you're like, oh, Robuchon potatoes, and people are like, ooh, it's like, it's just funny.
Yeah, this guy, he know, and that's what's cool about, even like over here, there's a lot of tech people, and when you talk to them, you're like, well, you're so fucking smart. It's like, yeah, they're smart, but they know about computers. They don't know shit about fucking cuisine, Yeah. And I think sometimes it's hard as a chef cook to look at your base of knowledge and think that it's awesome,
Yeah.
Because like every chef cook is kind of self-deprecating, and they're like, well, there's always more to learn, and I'm never, it's like you're never good enough in your eyes. And that's sort of like going out to the table and having people like tell you, oh, this is good, is like the pinnacle of our service. You know what I mean? It's like what we love.
Yep.
It's kind of a weird masochistic kind of thing.
Well, you don't really get that. You don't get that pleasure. Like people, I mean, if you're in the back in the kitchen, you don't get that. Good job, pat on the back,
right,
kind of thing. As much as if I'm like in someone's kitchen at their house, and I'm like washing dishes, finishing up the night, and they're just like coming in like, that was so good, and they slip some cash in my pocket. I'm like, oh, that's nice. That doesn't happen in a restaurant.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Which I think sometimes, like I grew up in restaurants that were kind of small, except for the first few I worked at, which was busy, with nobody knows your name kind of thing. But then I worked in a small team open kitchen, and I think that is rewarding, which I think we need more restaurants like that. We've gotten away from that model to open chains and open places that do 400 covers a night. And it's those soulless places that really rob the identity of the culinary field, because people just think like, when I was growing up, fucking Chili's was the gourmet shit, And now, being over here in California, all these fucking tech kids, I mean, they're raised in the Michelin program. They're eating at these crazy meals and like knowing what caviar is at a young age and shit. You know, I didn't even like caviar till like 4 years ago. You know, and it's just crazy to see the differences in education of the East Coast versus the West Coast. It's a lot more open over here in terms of like the education being like, go travel, go see the world, eat new foods. Whereas the Northeast, it's like, pay your fucking rent, shovel your driveway, you know, be nice to your neighbor, kind of shit.
Yeah.
Well,
It
wild,
is.
man.
Yeah, it is funny. It is funny. The Northeast lifestyle and attitude is like, especially, I don't know, like, yeah, like Philly, New York, Connecticut. Like, there's an attitude that's like, it's like, I'm angry, but I'm gonna help you. It's
Exactly.
Like, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. In California here, people don't help you much. Like, you know, I think
yeah, man. Like, if
I used to be like, oh, I like this place because of the people, but then you look around and you're like, nobody's helping fucking anybody, you know?
yeah,
Like, at least out there, like, they'll be like a dick to you, but they'll still help you out, you know?
yeah. Like 2 years ago, I drive a pickup,
Right.
and I was driving in a snowstorm back from my buddy's house, and I see this dude like struggling trying to like get out of a parking spot in like a fucking Porsche.
Right.
And I'm like, I pull over and I'm like, hey man, maybe you shouldn't have bought a fucking Porsche.
Right.
Because obviously there's this humorous thing about me being the guy in a pickup pulling over to help a guy push his car out in a Porsche. There's obviously a big difference between us in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah.
Now I'm gonna give you a budge. I'm like, I got good traction on my boots, and I'm like pushing him out. And as he pulls forward, because I know if he gets going, he's not gonna stop and say thank you, because now he's got momentum. So he's just gonna keep going, sticks his hand out the window, and waves. Now meanwhile, I just fall over into like a pile of slush, and I rip my pants.
Right.
And I'm just like, yeah, that sounds about right. It's about how it works.
Yeah,
out
this is like when you try to do something nice, you fucking.
here. Yeah.
You know, man, it's kind of crazy because when you're around these high net worth people, you realize that they're all like that, and that's why they are where they're at. Like,
well, they rely on what would they do without people like us?
Exactly. That's what I always say.
Out.
I'm like, every time I look around and I'm like, you know, because everybody wants to be the actor now and like the star of the show, right? But it's like, if everyone's the star of the show, who the fuck is going to produce the show or write the show or like do anything with the fucking show? You can't just have everybody being the number one. A number one needs a number two, you know, and so on and so forth.
For sure.
It's fucking wild. Well, Pete, I want to thank you for calling in the fucking show, man.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Fucking.
We didn't even broach the topic of heavy metal.
Oh,
so
dude, bring it on, bro. How about this?
I actually just.
It's all good because I'm trying to keep these concise to an hour, just so people will actually fucking listen to them. Because I found that if I make them like 2 hours, people don't listen, and then it's like, well, fuck. But definitely call in next week. We'll talk death metal. Before I go, I'll tell you this. I went to Cannibal Corpse show recently. That's the most recent metal show I've been to. Is there a lot of metal out?
First time seeing them?
No, dude. That's the only concert that I'm willing to like take time off of work for.
Word.
Because you know we used to go to those metal shows over at that spot, and you know, I like black metal. However, I do think that live, it doesn't hit as hard.
Yeah, sure.
Versus like in your car, you know?
Yeah.
Where it's like, for me, Cannibal Corpse, like death metal, even Morbid Angel, like it hits hard in concert too. Sometimes.
So, I just sent you this afternoon. I sent you a playlist.
I saw that. Yes, I got to check it out.
It's got like 600 plus songs on it, and it's got like every genre of metal's on there. So like,
Yeah.
it gets weird, it gets heavy, it gets there's some stuff on there that's probably not even metal, but
Yeah.
check it out. It's just something I orchestrated, and just to I like to help spread the word of metal.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I'm sure you do the same. You're like a beacon of communication between the world of metal and the world of people that don't listen to metal or don't get it. Same thing with wrestling.
Yeah.
I'm always like trying to explain to people like, hey, why do you like it? It's fake. And I'm like, well, you like The Godfather, and like Robert De Niro didn't kill any of those people,
Right.
So you still watch that and you like it. So why can't you like this? It's a horror movie basically on audio. I've been listening to this band called Macabre. Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah.
It's Macabre. Hitchhiker is the album, and then this other band called Deeds of Flesh. It's like Deeds of Flesh is like a heavier dying fetus. It's just a little bit heavier. What do you call it? ¿Cómo se llama? Heavier rhythms and more like death metal-y, but then it'll have that slam aspect to it. It's kind of weird.
Word.
But dude, we could fucking chop it up all night about this shit. We'll fucking leave it for next time. We'll talk metal. Maybe me and you need to start our own show. Just past this,
So I also, if you're ever interested in talking about movies, I got my podcast, Killer Pod from Outer Space, that I'm on with Vinnie Markle, that you know from back in the day.
Holy shit, what's it called?
Killer Pod from Outer Space.
Killer Pod from Outer Space. Why the fuck didn't you lead with that? That's fucking awesome. Killer Pod from Outer Space. What are you on? Spotify?
Spotify. I think it's on all the things.
You guys use Anchor?
Podbean.
Okay, got you. Well, shit. Maybe we can do it.
Vinny does the computer stuff. I just talk.
Okay, dope. Let's.
Literally, it's just dudes bullshitting about beer and
it's all good, bro. I'm down because I'll call in. You know me. Set up that Google phone number, and me and Vinny can also chop it up about podcast shit, because this is a whole new world. Like for me, it's so interesting. Doing with all the audio equipment and like getting everything right. And I had no idea you had a fucking podcast.
Our guy Jeff does that stuff too. Vinny, anyway, if you guys feel like talking about the technical stuff, but I mean, I'll call in it again and we'll set it up.
We'll set it up, man. And do you guys record and then put out your recorded stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Do you record weekly, monthly?
We do like once a week, and we usually do either. What we do is we do like we do mostly horror movies, but we do also just movies, any topic. But we'll come up with like like we did an Adam Sandler list for whatever.
Right.
For example, where we just go, and then there's like three of us picking, and we do like, oh, these are our top 10 Adam Sandler movies.
Right. Well,
and then the other thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
The other thing we do is we'll do a movie review, which is like tomorrow I'm gonna go see that movie Cocaine Bear.
Okay.
And we're gonna talk about it on Wednesday.
Dude, you know what, man? I'm down to get in on this, because I've been wanting to do a movie podcast for a long time and just have nobody that really, gets in it like that. It's just like a book club,
Yeah.
Let me know.
Totally.
Let me know and what movies you guys are watching and shit, and I'll watch them too and try to formulate some kind of opinion about it. Because I mean, I love movies. I love talking about movies. And I'm always on the lookout for new movies. I actually just saw one on Amazon Prime called Jungle with Daniel Radcliffe. It's a
I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, check it out. It's a true story about him. Basically, he's like in La Paz, and then some guy comes up to them and says, "Hey, I can take you in the woods and like show you these people that exist out there, these natives." And he's like, "All right, cool." And so they like hesitantly go out there, and then he gets stuck out there for like fucking 3 months and shit. It's fucking nuts. But
Yeah.
they do a good job with the mental, like playing with your mental chords, like trying to get you to feel how crazy he feels.
Okay.
Yeah, so do a good job of that. But yeah, check it out,
Sweet.
man, and let's keep in touch for sure.
Absolutely, dude.
All right. Yeah, if I need to
Oh,
get
this was
another
fun.
if I need to get another fucking podcast going in the week and we just talk about movies, I'm down with that too. Then be on two
Okay.
movie podcasts. Cuz
yeah.
tell them this, only 8% of all podcasts in the world had an episode last week. All right? So if you guys have an episode every week, you guys are winning. Above
I think we did have
92
an
above
episode last week.
above 92% of podcasts, you know what I mean? So like
yeah.
there's a lot of people out here being like, I got a podcast, but there's only a certain amount of people who are willing to put in the work to do a weekly podcast. It's not fucking easy,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So keep fucking
We actually had a
pumping
really
that
good
up.
episode last week, so that's good to know.
I love that. I'm loving, I'm getting into podcasts too, and I always love to support friends, so definitely gonna check that out.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah, Pete. All right. Thanks so much for calling in. This has been Sucio Talk. Go fuck yourselves. Have a great week. Love you, Pete. I'll talk to you next week.
All right, peace out, bro.
Peace out, Mike. There that was, guys. Pete calling in. His name is Peter. Good dude. I met him freshman year, East Hall, and such a nice guy. Like immediately, me and Tyler and him would hang out and smoke joints in the morning. Cool ass motherfucker. And he was one of the student teachers at Marketplace. Marketplace was a dining hall. And I used to actually sell weed to one of the managers there. And they used to say, hey, come down, get yourself a free meal at Marketplace. Just bring weed with you. And I would sell the eighth. And I would put it in a plastic cup and sit it on the table. And Pete would come by and grab the cup and put the money in the cup. And that's how we would sell drugs at Johnson & Wales University. So there's that. I learned from Emeril Lagasse. Okay. We'll see you next week. Sucio Talk live every Monday at 10 p.m. PST. Before Peter called, somebody random called and said, Lazy Bear sucks. I want to know what you guys think about that. Email chef@suciotalk.com. Lazy Bear sucks. Is it their food? Is it their people? Do they think they're better than everybody? Who knows? David Barzilay, we also got to have you on the show. Let's talk about it. A lot of people love to hate, but hated people also love to talk. You know what I mean? Hey, okay. Have a good fucking week, my people. Peace.